Hi, we're the Manage team, and we're going to do a little sort of lightning tour of what everyone's working on at the moment. We're all we've all got in progress work on, so we thought it would be nice to quickly show you anything interesting and see if we can find some opportunities for serendipity and crossing over and all this sort of stuff. So I'll go first, and then Amanda, and then Daniel. We'll all give you a little bit of a smorgasbord of what we're working on within Manage, and I'll jump right into it. So I'm Nick, if you don't know me. I'm a senior product designer in the Manage Analytics team. And what am I working on at the moment? A bunch of fun stuff. Let me bring this up, make it bigger. So right now I've been working on a UX strategy for analytics. There's a lot of content and a lot of data, and we've recently redefined our vision for what the analytics categories will actually be, more aligned to stages within a value stream. And alongside this new vision and category definition, we've also aggregated a bunch of different analytics content together in a new analytics tab, which you'll find within the project and group view. So this has brought to light a number of challenges, such as sort of the inconsistencies between analytics. And the fact that we've defined some new categories has also introduced some new challenges around new personas and the jobs to be done required for those personas. So all in all, we thought it would be a nice time to basically just zoom out a little bit and think about how we actually want to be approaching building out this new vision, which we defined for the categories. And our goals for this UX strategy that I talked about, we're sort of taking these 4 boxes down here. So making sure that we're designing with the business goals in mind, as well as the user context. We are thinking about who our target users are now that we have some new personas, as well as how the tier experience is differentiated across gold to gold, starter, ultimate, whatever tiers people are on. And then thinking about how information is distributed across all the different pages that we have in analytics. And then finally, how do we actually go about executing on this and validating the work as we go. So yeah, I've been working on this UX strategy, which I actually tried to take a sort of this object-oriented framework, this object-oriented architecture that I've been talking about recently, and thinking about how we can use objects to differentiate the different experience that you provide for different users based on their tiers. So going with the assumption that at a lower level tier, you could maybe have some analytics or reporting on objects, individual objects. And objects actually typically map quite nicely to different stages within the value stream. So you could then combine these objects together in unique ways in order to provide a sort of more holistic or stage-oriented view. So this was the hypothesis, and this is sort of how we thought we could map different features within analytics to each category and each stage. So we tried that out, or we defined the UX strategy as that and sort of framed it as a hypothesis. And now we're sort of at the stage now where we want to be testing out and doing sort of an MVC approach with this UX strategy. So what we're doing is taking a thin slice of existing content that we have and seeing how we can arrange the information architecture in such a way to see whether this works or not. I've been working on this for the past week, and there's a little the little hint that I have at the moment, or the little spoiler that I have, is it probably doesn't work in the way that I thought it would work, which is fine. But it's an interesting practice nonetheless, and it's useful to frame the UX designs and the designs that we have going forward in this type of framework in order to apply the right sort of constraints, so we're not flying all over the map. So that's where I am with analytics right now. I've linked all the issues there, but I can pass this over to Amanda now. So Amanda, feel free to go.
Thanks,
for it.
Nick. Hi, everyone. I'm Amanda Hughes, Senior Product Designer on Spaces. Next slide, Nick. So we are a newly formed group. One of the issues we're tackling first is quite a big issue, but it's our current administrative capabilities are quite limiting, making it challenging to manage groups, especially on GitLab.com. So to the right is a very simple diagram that illustrates a pretty complex problem. Right now, based on the way we have our roles and permissions set up, we have the system admin who's able to create users. And then the group owner is actually not able to create users and can only invite folks via email. So how this becomes such an issue is, the system admin can create a new user, but the group owner then has to wait for the user to create an account with their email address, and only then can they invite that particular user to the group, again, using their email address. So as you can imagine, this is quite a logistical nightmare, especially for more of our enterprise customers. Next slide, please. So one of our goals is to provide more granularity with our permissions and to create a way for our customers to work more autonomously within their organizations. So our initial thought was, well, we'll just create workspaces that house everything, and we could potentially create a new role, perhaps a workspace admin. While in fact that might be our end result, in the spirit of iteration, perhaps our initial steps is giving our customers more flexibility with our existing permissions. So given the example I just shared, perhaps it's simply giving our group owner the ability to create new users. Or perhaps we provide our administrators with useful data and admin capabilities all in a single area. Currently, they have to go to multiple places within the UI to manage their group. Next slide, please. So we're currently in the problem validation stage where we're conducting customer interviews. And also what I've had a heavy hand in is working on a competitive analysis. What questions am I trying to ask specifically with the competitive analysis is, how do others define a workspace or an organization? What are other organizational structures? Where do admins manage their workspaces, manage their organizations, groups, teams, etc.? How does an admin onboard an entire organization? How do others set and delegate roles and permissions? So I should have mentioned on the left, there is a little link that says See Mural. I encourage everyone to open that link. And I've diagrammed out kind of how I've organized the mural in a quick little drawing I did. So again, I encourage everyone to take a look at that mural. Next slide, please. So really our next steps, this is very early in our research phase, but it's, we're going to continue to synthesize user interviews. We just started that this week, so hopefully that'll be finalized by next week. We're also talking about doing a card sorting activity with some of our customers to see, what roles and permissions kind of follow their organization structure. And then continue to research best practices. So I'd like to also use this opportunity to solicit some help. So if anyone has any Gold Star products, particularly when it comes to user management or assigning permissions and roles, or even if there's, of a product that has a pretty solid admin dashboard that provides a lot of value to the customers. Yeah, so anything you have, please send it along. And any questions, please feel free to Slack me. Again, we're at the fairly early stages of the project, so there's still a lot to be figured out. And with that being said, I'll go ahead and hand it over to Daniel.
Hey, how are y'all doing? So y'all know me, Daniel Morrow, to the Senior Product Design for Management and Compliance. My PM is Matt. Go ahead and pop over to the next slide. So kind of a follow-up for what we've been doing. We've begun laying down the foundation for compliance. There are specifically the compliance checks into GitLab. So when I spoke about this problem before, it was mostly in the ideation and research phase. Because we don't have a functional buildup or the functional components available, so we're trying to do that currently. So here, what we're working on is to establish these features, build them out, and then the goals would end up being to create all of them in one, or build them all together in one place to provide a dashboard that offers a single source of truth for enterprise customers so that they can quickly and easily manage the compliance issues. So let's go to the next slide. Again, so just following up here, what we're working on specifically is creating what you could call additional persona. We don't necessarily have something called an auditor or a legal persona. So we have a research task or research issue out there to try and understand what's the needs or the features needed by these people or what these personas are seeking in the platform. So we've had some interviews scheduled with some of these enterprise organizations to further investigate these requirements or any sort of nice to haves that the system does not currently offer. And this is going to guide us through the scope of what's needed to build out this dashboard. On the right, we have some of the research that we're trying to understand, sort of like, so the first example would be the reactive workflow versus a proactive workflow. So the focus initially has been on these proactive workflows where we have to build out the functions or the features in the platform to allow compliance functionality. A reactive workflow would be the next step where we, or a user or a client would receive an audit from an agency or an auditing service and say, can you provide us with your compliance criteria or any sort of documentation? So what does that sort of system or function look like? How do they respond to that reactive request? And down below, sort of trying to understand how the objects might be mapped out. The primary focus of the components were audit issues, compliance controls, and merge requests, providing insight. So compliance statuses, total audit issues, recent approved merge request activity, these sorts of things that happen naturally within the platform, but now they have a way to be audited and tracked within the platform, thus giving us a dashboard. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next slide. So among these number of little small issues, I've kind of documented all of the ones that we're working on or have been executed. They're currently in development or waiting for approval. And so things such as enabling, for example, the GitLab control module or the GitLab compliance framework that we had spoken of in the last presentation. Also expirations for passwords or minimum password lengths. So specifically password requirements that are mandated by certain sort of compliance protocols. Credential inventory. So we have inventories of personal access tokens, SSH keys, and that would allow flexibility to add any sort of further expansion or whatnot. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. And so the next step, we are kind of trying to see or visualize the dream, what this might look like. This is just kind of a quick mock-up based off of grabbing pieces from the component library and building out what we had previously done from wireframes to show or to see where these pieces connect. What I want to do from here is actually continue with my wireframes, go back to the user interviews and say, do these solutions meet your needs? Is there anything here functionally not working or missing? And then add that to our research so we can iterate upon that. But right now, this is kind of just playing with the final stage just to see if this is meeting the direction that we're headed. A lot of the research that we've had done so far kind of points to all of this being this more or less way that the information will be presented. So again, like I said, we're just going to be in the testing and research and validation phase now. And that was it. Any questions from the team for any of the three of us? Guess not. So let's move on to the next person.
I just wanted to say I really like the format and like getting to hear from each of you. That was great.
Oh, cool. Thank you. That was Amanda's idea.